Okay, welcome to this presentation. It's how exercise is essential to self-care, right? And how do we get there, right? That's a little bonus part that I put on is how we get there. But who here has heard about self-care, right? Has anybody heard that phrase before? Does anybody practice any self-care? Like, are there any activities that you do that kind of help to make you feel better? You know? Okay, what do you do?
Drink water.
You drink water, okay. You taking care of yourself?
I do go to spin classes or I walk.
Exercise, great. That's my wheelhouse. Anybody, sometimes, what do you,
Exercise, walking.
walking, exercise. Um, does anybody ever go out for a mani-pedi just to feel better?
Shopping.
Shopping.
Retail therapy.
Okay, but it's therapy. Yeah, therapy, makes a part of that. Anybody have a bestie that they can like call up and they're like, man, you would not believe what John did today? Like,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so these are all parts of self-care, right? But we're going to focus today on fitness. But I'm going to use many different parts of self-care in this presentation. I'm just not going to call them out. Again, because the focus is on fitness. But you can't get to the fitness aspect without everything else. Okay? All right, so let's talk about how self-care is defined. Right? So the World Health Organization says that self-care is what people do for themselves to establish and maintain health, right? And to prevent and deal with illness. Right? And so going to the doctor once a year is part of self-care, getting your labs done, right? Exercise is also self-care, but so is like going to church. And so we make time for these things in our lives, right? So that way we can feel better or practice our spirituality or whatever, right? All right, here's the big question. How many people sometimes feel bad about carving out time in their day to go to the gym or to go on that walk because got a big project going on? Maybe someone just took like maternity leave. Maybe there's a new hire that's just not working out and you're soldiering on and doing that work, extra work. But you feel bad and you're like, man, I can't go to the gym today because I have to do my job. Anybody feel like that sometimes? Okay. All right.
Lazy. Not bad.
No.
I kind of feel the opposite. I feel bad that I didn't go for my walk or workout because I got caught up in work.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. I'm gonna talk to you in a while, and people are gonna turn their heads. That's good. Okay, so the guilt, basically. And it could be like you have to like cook food for the kids, right? Or it could be that like the kids have like practice, right? Or maybe you have a partner who's working multiple jobs, or maybe you're working multiple jobs. And you're like, man, I just can't fit it in, right? But at the end of the day, maybe we can fit in like a couple hours of Netflix, right? It's just kind of like, man, I just need to unwind. A couple of hours of Netflix, maybe, I don't know, and maybe a beer or a glass of wine, right? Because that's part of self-care too, right? You got to try to like decompress, right? All right, so we can find time to decompress, right? But sometimes it's not necessarily working out, right? And that's okay for right now. You shouldn't feel bad about that. We're doing the best that we can, right, to try to live a happy life. All right. All right, but let's kind of switch gears and let's talk about why it is important to self-care, right? Because that's also like a really important part of this presentation, the why aspect, right? And at the end of the day, it comes down to many factors, but we're going to focus on stress because stress compounds, or it can compound. People manage stress in different ways based on their upbringing, based on their experiences, Some people can manage stress and still find time to do what they want to do. Some people just have that innate gift to do it. And others, maybe they don't have the same organizational skill sets, right? Or maybe they just haven't had the experience where they've had a mentor help them learn how to deal with stress and still prioritize their life, right? So it's different for everyone. But for those people that have trouble dealing with stress, right, this is how it can impact your life or how it can compound. And there are two sides, right? We have mental stress and we have physical stressors. But sometimes the two converge and then it becomes a real problem. I like to talk in stories and I try to like paint pictures. So that's what I'm going to do here. This is kind of like a story. You have your job, and after work, you have kind of a hectic lifestyle. Like, maybe you have children that you have to worry about, or you have another job that you have to deal with, and like cooking it's just a race, right? And then change happens at work, one of your works, or change happens with one of your children, right? But it requires more time out of your day, right? And you start losing a little bit of sleep. You're like, okay, I took care of the kids, I got food, went to work, but man, I still have like another hour and a half of lesson planning that I have to consider, right? Or I have a project that is coming due, and I'm going to have to spend more time there. And you lose a little bit of sleep. Sleep is very important. It's a very important part of self-care. Did you know that when you have a bad night's sleep, you are physically prone to eat more the next day? Just at a subconscious level, you don't even think about it, but you grab like that packet of Cheez-Its, right? Or you go to the vending machine, you're like, I just need a Snickers today, right? You don't think about it, it just happens. But it's a physical occurrence in our body. We don't get enough sleep. We need more nutrition to carry out our day. Okay? All right, so then you have that. Now you're at work, right? And you haven't had good sleep, and your productivity slides a little bit. It just takes you a little longer to compose that email. It just takes you a little longer to analyze that data, right? So now you finish work, and you're like, man, I still have like extra work that I have to do because you had a loss of productivity. Now maybe we start feeling a little bit of anxiety. Like, man, I got to get this work done, right? And you like do what you got to do after work, and you get your work done, and you have another bad day of sleep, right? And maybe you're like, just think, gosh, this is only going to be for 3 weeks. And after these 3 weeks, the semester is going to end, right? Or the project is going to come to a close. But during the course of those 3 weeks, maybe if you drink a bottle of wine like every week, maybe that Netflix, that hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe instead of it being like 2 glasses of wine, it becomes 3 glasses of wine. Or maybe if you're a smoker, maybe instead of smoking like 1 pack of cigarettes during the course of the week, it ends up being 2 packs, right? Now we start talking about physical stressors. So you have these mental stressors in your mind, and now it's starting to impact your physical self. You have low energy because you're not getting enough sleep. Now you have more toxins in your body because it's a vice, maybe, right? And anxiety can then become depression. It doesn't have to become depression. It could just be like light anxiety, but it could happen. After a course of a year, 2 years, 5 years, right? You go to your doctor and your doctor might say, hey, your blood pressure is kind of high. You've got hypertension. You don't keep track of all of these things that are occurring, but just like compound interest, it's still accruing. It's still happening. You're not thinking about it, but it's occurring. Maybe you become pre-diabetic. Now you're really in a tough spot because you really have loss of energy. And maybe you need to take a nap as soon as you get back from work, right? Because these are physical traits of being diabetic, right? As for hypertension, maybe you have headaches now, right? You got to deal with headaches and you're at work, loss of productivity. Do you see where we're going here? In the end, I think we achieve something that I personally refer to it as drone mode. And I picked this up through reading fiction, but drone mode is what I call the act of conforming to what our environment is throwing at us, right? So our bills dictate how much money we need to make, right? On it's like college tuition for children or whatever. We know we need enough of something, enough of work, enough of money to live. And then based off of that, we work our schedule. So it could be 2 jobs, or it could be a career and a side hustle, right? And all of that stuff starts to take precedence. And you wake up in the morning, you grab your coffee because you need it, right? You go to work, you have another coffee in the middle of the day because you feel sleepy, right? And maybe that coffee isn't a black coffee. Maybe it's an iced coffee with cream and 2 pumps of caramel flavoring, right? And some whipped cream and a little bit of cinnamon on top, yeah? But we need that in order to get through our day. And then at the end of the day, we wake up and we do it all over. And then 15 years down the road or 20 years down the road, we maybe turn 40 or the week before we turn 40, and we start to assess our life. And we're like, man, where did the years go? Right? And life has just passed us by. That's what I call drone mode. Like a drone, you just execute tasks during the course of the day ends, and then you get up and you execute those tasks again. So it sounds pretty like grim, right? But there's hope. There's a way to get out of drone mode, right? And we can do it through self-care, right? And we can kind of do it through fitness. But to be honest, you can't just start with fitness. It just won't work. And the reason why that is in order to live a healthy lifestyle, we need to be a person who leads a healthy lifestyle. When people look at us, like, oh yeah, they're a runner. Yeah, Jared. I remember when Jared was like 300 pounds and he started just running one day, and now he goes to the gym and he's a runner. He just runs all the time. All right, so that's part of his persona. Jared is a runner, right? And maybe Nancy, Nancy has just always been a genius. She wins at chess, she wins at Scrabble, she reads 6 books a week. But how does she consume all of that information, right? So that's her persona. Part of it is we know that Nancy is a genius. All right, so we have the power to change our persona, every one of us. I believe that there are multiple versions of ourselves that are out there, and we can choose which ones it is we want to aspire to become, right? But to do that, we have to change our persona. We have to live that life. We have to be that person. Before we can do that, we kind of have to define who that person is, what they're going to be. I used to be a student here at Moraine Valley, and I can't remember, it was either a humanities class or it was a psychology class. But I had a teacher that she made us write this interflexion or reflective like essay about ourselves, And I had just gone through a life change at that point of time. My life change started at about the age of 45. And part of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to get my associate's degree by the time I was 50. Right? So I had to take these classes. But I was able to reflect on the last few years of my life, and I was like, man, I really changed the person who I was. That's what we're going to talk about for the next segment of this presentation. And we're going to talk about like fitness and the different types of fitness and the different resources that you can leverage. So let's do a time check. All right, only 15 minutes gone by. Perfect. All right, so let's start with, we already talked about persona. Extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. We talked about this earlier before class, right? So external pressures. If you tell someone they need to make a change, right, they might have a go at it, right? And they might find some success, and they might like the success, and then they might continue on with that practice. But that's generally not the case. You ask a smoker or you tell a smoker, man, you need to stop smoking, right? It's very difficult, right? It's an addiction. It's a tough thing to do. I used to be a smoker, smoked for years. And I quit smoking, and then I'd go to Vegas and I'd start smoking again, right? Or I'd go to like Mexico and I'd start smoking again, right? Until one day, I told you I went through a life change. You know, I'm not a smoker. I just don't do it. I don't eat ice cream either. I just don't eat ice cream. I don't miss ice cream. I don't want to eat ice cream because it's just not something that I do. I don't eat ice cream. I also do a lot of other stupid things. Like, you know, it might look like it's going to start raining, but, you know, I don't mind running in the rain because, you know, I'm an adventurer. That's part of who I am. I go out and I do things that people might think I'm just crazy. But that's who I am. I also dance when I vacuum, you know? And I don't have a problem saying that because that's kind of defines who I am. All right. So that's extrinsic motivation. That's pressure. Somebody tells you to do something. Intrinsic motivation is different. Intrinsic motivation is when you want to make a change. Maybe you've been in a relationship and that relationship ends, and now you're like, oh man, I'm going to take my revenge and I'm going to get into good shape and I'm going to show them. And you do that, and you take all these pictures on Facebook, and in 6 months you're in great shape, right? That's still an extrinsic motivator, right? Yeah, and if you don't feel like that's the person who you should be or who you want to be, and it's actually just revenge on someone else, well, once that revenge feeling finishes, then it all goes to the wayside until you actually make the change in persona. But if, let's say, you're a single mother and you're in a relationship and it ends, and you think to yourself, man, I was taking care of that man. I've been taking care of the children. I was the one that was putting forth all of this time, all of this effort to make things work. And you know what? I'm through with that. Yeah, I'm going to take care of my kids and I'm going to take care of myself. And I'm never going to put myself in a situation where I'm going to put somebody else first, right? Unless it's a compromise and we're doing it together. And that's the way that I'm going to live. That's intrinsic motivation. That's a change in your persona. That's a change in how you are going to approach life. And that's what we need to strive for. We need to find something deep within us, right, that we're going to say, this is what I want to achieve. This is who I want to be. You might not like going to the gym. You might not like lifting weights. That's fine. Some people, they do yoga. Yoga is great. And that's where they find their outlet. Other people might say, man, you know what? I want to ride my bike. I want to ride my bike to St. Louis. Why? Who knows? But I did that one year. I rode my bike to St. Louis, then I rode my bike to Champaign. And I did it after I had made this change because I had said to myself, I'm going to be an adventurer. And that's what adventurers do. And I wanted to show my niece, not my niece, my nephews and my daughter that even at the age of 47, I could do it if I put my mind to it, right? But mostly it was about me though. Like that's like that I was able to show them that, and that was a good thing. But it was really important for me to say to myself, hey, you know what? You can do this. You can ascend to a different level. All right, so now that we've talked about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, and we talked about how our persona is defined, now we could talk about how do we get there, right? So how many people have a family? Or, yeah, family. Okay. So if you have a family and you're trying to balance things, right? Proactive communication has got to be where we start. But we've already defined who we want to be. Like maybe we even like wrote out on a piece of paper. When people look at me, this is what they're going to think about. These are the traits that I want to aspire to, right? Okay, so now we know who we want to be. But in order to get there, there are a few things that need to happen. We need to make sure that we can find the time and we can be supported to execute what we need to do. And if we don't proactively communicate, then it's just kind of like a secret. And you tell your partner, no, but really, I need to go to the gym. And your partner's like, you, in their mind, I know you need to go to the gym, but you also need to cook, right? Or I know you need to go to the gym, but Susie needs to go to tennis practice, right? So we need to proactively say, hey, you know what? This is how I'm feeling right now, right? And this is the person that I would like to be, right? But I'm going to need your help to get there, right? And it could be, I'm going to start with going to the gym 1 day a week. It's either going to be on Tuesday or it's going to be on Thursday. If I can't make it on Tuesday, I'm going to go on Thursday, but I need your help, right? So that's the proactive communication part. The second is skills, right? So we might not necessarily know how to organize our life. We can go to YouTube. We can seek out a friend that we know who's just a super organized person and just start spending more time with them, observing what they do, asking some questions, right? If you spend time with a person who's good at something and you want to become maybe not as good as them, but better than where you are, it's one of the best ways to do it because you're with a friend, right? They're an expert or a subject matter expert in that field. It's for free, right? And it's a skill that you can acquire, right? So skill acquisition is very important. When it comes to fitness, you either might need to go onto YouTube or you might need to hire a personal trainer. Maybe not, 3 days a week, you're going on one-on-one personal trainer sessions. That's expensive, right? But maybe you do 2 sessions, one session to get assessed, and then another session so that way somebody can teach you the exercises that you need to do to work on what you want to be. If you want to be a tennis player, you have to have developed glute medial muscles because otherwise you're going to put a ton of stress on your knees and on your ankles, and you don't want to blow out a knee and you don't want to roll an ankle 3 weeks into your transformation, right? So skill acquisition is very important. If you want to be a bicycle rider, there's a book right here, Safe Cycling in the City. If you want to ride your bicycle, right, there's a certain way you can ride your bicycle for certain reasons. If it's because you have hypertension and you need to be doing cardiorespiratory exercises and cycling is the way that you want to do it, then there is a targeted heart rate that you should adhere to make your heart beat more efficiently. That will reduce your resting heart rate, which will mean that your heart will work less during the course of the day, and it will increase your overall longevity, mortality, right? There's another book here. It's Run and Walk. How many people know how to run? How many people, when they run, their knees hurt? Did you know there are bad ways of running? And there are also safe ways to running. It's part of what I do. I help people learn how to run so that way they don't feel banged up. And I also tell people, okay, when you run, you can't run for another 3 days. You can walk, right? But you can't continue to run because your body's not ready yet. And these are the exercises that you'll need to do on a weekly basis so that way you can develop the muscles in your body to relieve stress from the joints in your body so that way you can run pain-free. Oh, yeah, the top of your knee hurts. The reason why that is because when you strike the pavement, you're reaching and all of that stress is going up your tibia and hitting your knee. Let's strike in our center of our body. So there are some drills that we can prescribe to help you do that. Now you can run your 5K. Now you can run your 10K. Now you can be that 60-year-old person that does triathlons or marathons, but you had to acquire skills, right? Same can be said with cooking, right? Cooking isn't the easiest thing to do when you're on the clock, right? But someone who knows how to cook, knows how to prepare things. Okay, I got that set. I'm taking care of this right now. That's going to be finished then. All right, now let's move this here, finish that up. The hour and a half meal that it used to take you to cook, now just cooked in 45 minutes. Well, maybe not 45 minutes, an hour. You saved half an hour because you still have to prep your protein and then it needs to like cook and simmer while you're doing everything else and make sure it comes out on time. But that's also a skill. How do you execute the preparation of meals, right? And that goes into time management. So that's skills. What else do we have? Oh, we have to commit to the person who we want to be. All right, this one right here. This one you have to live. You've already defined who you want to be, right? But you also need to, you don't really need to define it, but how do I put this? Okay, we're going to define your persona on how you eat. I'm not a dietary nutritionalist, so I kind of have to be careful with what I say about how you eat and how you don't eat. All right, but I'm going to paint a general scenario. An athlete eats a certain way. Not everybody wants to aspire to be an athlete, but if you want to run a 10K, you're kind of going to have to live the life of an athlete who can run a 10K. Right? Maybe not an athlete who runs a 25-mile marathon or something, right? So you have to be like, okay, what would that athlete eat? And you might have to go onto YouTube, or you might have to pick up a running book about nutrition or whatever from the library, right? But that's the life that you had to lead. Instead of drinking, a glass of wine a day, maybe you drink wine only on Saturdays and Sundays. Unless Saturday is a big day when you run. Well, then you could drink the wine after you run, and you can drink the wine on your recovery day as well. So that will work out too, yeah? But that's what you've got to do. You have to commit to that persona. It could also mean that you have to go to sleep at a certain time. But what if I don't have time and I have to work, right? Well, that person also is going to have to learn how to communicate effectively to their support network within their job and say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what my capacity looks like, right? And based on the work that I have, I'm going to be over capacity. I don't have the bandwidth, right? And in the 90s or in early 2000s, I struggled with this. How do I tell my manager that I don't have the bandwidth, right? Especially now at like the 11th hour, fail, right? So that's another skill that you might need to learn to work is proactive communication on where your workload is. Looking at your week and saying, hey, how am I going to make this work? And then reaching out to your boss or to your coworkers, to your team, and saying, hey, you know what? It's going to be a real stretch for me to manage this work. Like, does anybody else have any bandwidth with? How can we work together to like get this taken care of? And obviously you'll have to return the favor, right? You'll have to be flexible as well. But if you want to achieve something that is really important to you, sometimes it's not just the work to achieve that goal. Sometimes it's the stuff outside that dictates the time that you have during the day to actually put time for to achieve your goal. And finally, let's talk about the Ultimate Kettlebell Workout Book. Okay. Going to the gym sometimes requires preparation time for some people. Some people need to get ready. Some people need to have things set up in their house before they can go to the gym. And then when they get finished the gym, they have to come back from the house and they have to shower. It's a whole routine, right? So a 45-minute workout could end up taking an hour and a half, 2 hours. This Ultimate Kettlebell Workout Book, the kettlebell is a dynamic piece of fitness equipment. You can use the kettlebell to work on your core. You can use it to work on your posterior chain. You can use it to work your arms. You can use it, yeah, that's mostly it, right? But it only takes up a small set of space. And you don't have to have a number of kettlebells. You could maybe just have one kettlebell, right? And then you could come to the Fit Rec and you can say, hey, I need a personal trainer. I want to start doing kettlebell workouts at home. I can't come to the gym regularly, right? So do you have anybody that can help me do it in a safe way and provide a workout routine for me? And then, maybe every 6 weeks you can, meet back up with your personal trainer for a half-hour session or for an hour session. And you can be like, hey, I need new exercises, or this is too easy for me now, right? So kettlebell workout. That way you don't have to leave home and you can save time. But, talk to a professional, because you will save time talking to a professional versus going onto YouTube, trying to figure it out. And then, oh, guess what? I was swinging my kettlebell and I had my, what would be something that I could do? If I did this and, so I was swinging my kettlebell and man, I hurt my lumbar portion of my back. And now I can't train. Right? Well, that happened because you didn't use your hips, and you're trying to use your arm and the small muscles in your back. When you do a kettlebell workout and you're swinging, it's all in the posterior, it's all in the hips. It's barely anything in the arms other than just to hold on to the weight. And there's a tempo that we use. So sometimes talking to a professional can save you time, even though it costs you a little bit of money. 60 hikes within 60 miles. All right? Hiking is fun when you do it with people, right? So let's talk about our social support system. Playing tennis is better when you play tennis with a friend, right? And you can go at it together, right? Hiking isn't the easiest thing to do if you don't know where to go, if you don't know what kind of shoes to wear, right? How long should you hike, right? YouTube, Strava, the Strava community, right? Seek out people who hike if hiking is something that you like to do. Meetup. There's a meetup group in the Chicagoland area, and they have a whole group of people, and it's organized, and you can go on like overnight hikes too, or day hikes or whatever, right? But they've been in business for, 15, 20 years on Meetup. This one is great right here. Pickleball. We have just painted lines in our Fit Rec tennis courts to accommodate pickleball. There are 2 courts, and they're tennis courts, but within the tennis court, we have blue lines painted to go through the pickleball outline. Pickleball is a great segue into tennis. Pickleball is good for mobility. It's good for cardiorespiratory, right? But it's bad for your joints if you're not ready. So, hey, Ellen. Ellen is our FitRec director of personal trainers. I want to start playing pickleball, right? But I don't want to hurt my knees. I don't want to get tennis elbow. I don't want to get tendonitis. Do you have a personal trainer that can help me work on some exercises that I can do regularly to strengthen my body? Yeah, so-and-so can help you with that. They've played tennis before. They can teach you that if you swing far away, it's going to put pressure on your shoulder and on your elbow. And that's why the swing has to be nice, tight, and compact. We don't want to just hit this way. We want to make sure that our posture is such that we're using our posterior chain, solid base, straight back, and we can go forward and meet the ball versus letting the ball hit our racket and vibrate our whole arm, sending vibrations through our elbow or whatnot. Tennis elbow. Yeah, tendonitis and stuff. Yeah, but pickleball. My wife and I just started playing pickleball. She loves it. She got mad just a day or two ago at me because she's like, I want to play pickleball. I was like, yeah, but weren't you just talking about how your wrist was hurting and how, let's let that wrist heal a little bit and let's do some mobility stuff instead. Now we're going to play pickleball on the weekend. And then after that, we'll go to breakfast. And I hope that will be like a regular routine because it's a lot of fun. And plus, there's nobody on the pickleball court at 8 o'clock in the morning. There's, a couple of tennis players, but that's that. What else do we have? Oh, goals. Goals. In order to progress in this healthy lifestyle or in anything, in order to find success in anything that is going to be difficult, that is going to be a challenge, we need to set realistic goals. You guys have all heard of SMART goals, right? So SMART goals work really well in business for a project. And they kind of work okay for a lifestyle, right? But they don't work great for a lifestyle. For a lifestyle change, you need to set goals that you can achieve, that you will find success in, easy goals that you can build upon. The more success that you find, the more excitement you will have, the more you will want to get at it. And then the more you'll level up, right? That's basically what happens is consistency in physical fitness will drive your musculature, your physical self to want more. It will want more. You will want to run 5 miles more. You will want to do a marathon. You will want to change and maybe try a triathlon. Maybe you'll want to do swimming, right? But before you can do all that, you have to start with, okay, I'm going to walk 3 days out of the week. And one of those days I'm going to run, and it's going to be 3 laps in the FitRec, right? And 1 day a week I'm going to do a running drill so I can learn how to strike properly. And then 2 weeks later, your body might say, man, 3 laps just isn't enough. I'm going to do 5 laps. You do your 5 laps, right? And then you're like, man, I want to do more, but I just don't have time, right? Maybe you're taking a foreign language class or something or whatnot, right? Podcast. Maybe it's the latest techniques in psychology therapy, or maybe you do sociology, and there are great sociologists that are out there doing podcasts, and they talk about relevant sociology. Put them on your earphones. Do 2 things at one time, right? Do what you can to maximize your time, but eventually you'll get to a point where you're thinking, man, I need to carve out more time for my fitness, right? Whereas before, when we first started, we were like, man, I just don't have time for fitness. But once you get there, once you have communicated what you want to do to your loved ones and to your friends, and you start to acquire the skills and you start to live the lifestyle, you will naturally start to make these changes and you will have changed your lifestyle. You will now be someone who leads a healthy lifestyle. And it might take a year, right? Well, maybe not a year. It might take a quarter for you to start getting excited about it. It might take a year before you start prioritizing your health over some of the other things in your life, like the 2 hours that you used to take for Netflix and the glass of wine. Now you might just be like, man, like, I don't know, Sarah, you're gonna have to tell me like what happened on like was it Dragons, House of Dragons, because I haven't been able to keep up, right? That could be you. It's me now a lot. Like I don't know what people are talking about when it comes to TV because I don't watch TV all that much. Kind of a lie, actually. No, it's not true. I do watch TV with my wife at night. I only said like the House of Dragons because that's what we're currently watching. But that's not until after I finished all of my stuff and I'm done with my activities for the day. And then I spend one episode with my wife and we watch, that program together. All right, so let's talk about fitness. What do we got here? I got 18 minutes left. All right, so we have three major categories when it comes to fitness. We have mobility, right? We have weight training, and we have cardiorespiratory training, right? All of them are important. All of those people that say, you don't need to do cardio to be fit, it's not true. You need to have some cardiorespiratory activities in your life, right? Some people say, oh, you don't need weight training. You can just do yoga. I'm sorry, but that's also, you can do it, but we're going to talk about weight training in a minute. You need to have weight training too. And as for mobility, I don't know how many of you, like, when you're trying to reach under the sink to like find like, that bottle of Windex, just gotta reach for it, right? Well, mobility is the ability to be able to just come down, look for it, grab it, and just come right back up, right? So with weight training, cardiorespiratory, and mobility, we start with mobility first, right? As a personal trainer, and even if you don't have a personal trainer in your life, you need to assess yourself, your current state, right? Before you ever do like any project, you ever do anything, you have a discovery session, right? And you define what the current state is. This is where we are. So, stretching. Oh man, I can't touch my toes, right? Eventually we want to be able to touch our toes, right? But okay, so we need some stretching, right? Oh man, I can run half a lap in the Fit Rack. Okay, half a lap. And do I have an Apple Watch? Where's my pulse at after I finish that half a lap? How is that working, right? When I sit down, when I walk down the stairs, do I have a knee pain at the top of my knee? Okay, I got a knee pain. Why do we have it? Okay. All right, now you can get onto YouTube and you can start looking at, how do I make my heart stronger? How do I fix knee pain going down the stairs, right? And then you can start, your exercise program. Or you can reach out to the Fit Rec, right? And we can put a program together for you. But those are the important things because without mobility, right, what happens is when you get older, if you don't work what's called like your glute medius, and you trip on a sidewalk, how many people know someone who have like shattered their legs because they tripped on a sidewalk, they hit the pavement, and they broke their legs, and they're like 65 years old, right? It's a hard injury to come back from if you're not like fit. And that could have been avoided if, when you tripped, you're able to pick up your leg and regain your balance, right? And we can all do that through just like some simple calisthenics, and also just like some simple like weight training. And this is generally where I start with people who are trying to get back into shape, who are middle-aged or older, maybe they're like my age, the first thing I start doing is I start talking about mobility, working on their posterior chain, and helping them to be safe in their normal day-to-day, while working a little bit on their weight training, sprinkle it there, a little bit of cardiorespiratory. I try to encourage them, but at the end of the day, I have to do what people like want to do. So they might say, I'm not interested in cardiorespiratory. So, okay, you're not interested, you're not interested, right? So those are the three big pieces: mobility, cardiorespiratory, and weight training. I'm just going to close with weight training is important, especially for women, because bone density plays a huge part in cell creation and staving off osteoporosis. And to have good bone density, you need to, you need to carry load. Your bones need to carry load, right? And that is the form of like squats, right? Lunges, like any type of load on the body, right, will make your bones more denser. So you need weight training. Cardiorespiratory, you need cardiorespiratory because if your heart rate, so the range is like 60 to 90 resting heartbeat, and that's normal, right? But normal doesn't mean fit. It just doesn't. And normal changes based on our population, right? I'm a 50-year-old man, my resting heart rate is 40. I'm an athlete. Like, I'm an old athlete, but I'm an athlete. Right? But when I started, my resting heart rate was probably like around 60-ish. And I got into like endurance sports, and it dropped. Right? Want to live a long life? Low resting heart rate. Okay. Okay. I'm not going to get into like muscle mass, and I'm not going to get into like fat mass and like the difference between the two, because that's not really part of self-care. But if you ever have any questions about that stuff, my name is Francisco. My cards aren't ready yet. I haven't had cards at FitRec for a long time. I don't know why, but that's how you can reach me. I'm in the FitRec. You can call Ellen. Ellen is like the director of our program, and she can put you in touch with me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, or you can ask her questions, and she'd probably be happy to answer any of the questions that you have. I can, yeah. After class, if you want to get a hold of me, I can leave you my contact information. That would be fine.